Well, I'm going to tell you a story about a dog. Again, my goodness, that's all I know about, I guess. But this one was not the most friendly dog in the world. In fact, I didn't like him very well because he was vicious. He barked, he chased cars, and he was very big. Well, he lived across the road and up one driveway from me. So I didn't have to drive up there, so he didn't bother me too much. But all I ever heard was the owner yelling, and he was always cussing. He swore like a San Diego sailor, and he talked to his child, and he talked to the dog like that. But I ignored him. I always tried to get along with the fellow. The rest of the neighbors didn't. They all fought with him, and they had all kinds of issues. Well, for several years, we put up with this, and then one day, they decided to go on vacation. And they came to me and they asked me if I would take care of their dog. And I said no, that I wanted no part of him. Well, they insisted that there was nobody, so I felt bad. So I went up there, and they had him in a big caged affair, and he just barked and snarled and jumped at the fence at me, and I'm thinking, oh my word, how am I going to do this? Because they told me I had to let him out twice a day. Now, how do I let him out when he wants to kill me? It was really a problem. They just told me I'd deal with it. So I did. And I went up there the first evening, and he saw me coming up the road, and he started barking immediately. And, oh wow, what am I going to do? So I get up there. I know I've got to let him out. So I opened the cage door, and I pulled it, and I pinched myself between the cage, and I had the door in front of me, so he couldn't get at me. And the strangest thing happened. He come out of the enclosure, and he ran right up on their porch. He went right up there, and he looked in the window. And I thought, well, okay. So I followed him, and I noticed he hadn't eaten any of his food that they left him. So I didn't think much about it, and I followed him around, and he wandered the property. He had this little route that he took through the trees and the timber up above their house. And he did all of his bathroom duties, like they said he would, and then I had to get him back in the enclosure. So I didn't want to pull on him or anything, and I hadn't really touched him yet even. So he kind of got close to the door, and I kind of leaned on him, and I started closing it, and I just kind of pushed him in. Okay, that was the first day. Second day I go back, he hasn't touched his food. Nothing again, he won't eat. And again I did the same procedure, opened the gate, he ran right up on the porch and looked in the window. Well, I began to figure out the dog is lonesome. He's really sad. He likes these people. They don't think much of him, the way they treated him, but he really wanted to be with them. So it must have been on a Tuesday because we had the meal of hope, and there were a bunch of hot dogs that were left over. And I got this idea, if I took some hot dogs, maybe I could persuade that dog to eat. And maybe he would, be friendly with me. So I took some hot dogs, and of course the same routine. He barked and growled as I approached. But as soon as I started giving him little hot dogs through the fence, boy, his tail starts wagging. He's really pleasant, I let him out, and I noticed as long as I had hot dogs in my hand, I had little pieces of them chopped up. He followed me everywhere I went. This really worked well. So I did that for a couple of days, but he still wouldn't eat all his food. He just ate what I would give him by hand. So, boy, what am I going to do? The hot dogs run out eventually. What am I going to do? So I was on in my daily work, I drive by a golf course, and I know that on Fridays they have prime rib. It's a special. And I went in there and I asked them if they would have any cutoffs at the end of the prime rib. And I expected just to get a couple of pieces. Well, she brought me out about 10 pounds of this stuff. A great, big, huge container, all greasy and slimy. So I go up there, and that dog gets a whiff of this stuff, and he just loves me. I'm feeding him, and we do our little routine. We go on our walk. And this time I went over and I sat on the steps with him of the house. And he sat right beside me, and that's the closest I'd ever been. I'm sitting right by him, and as I'm sitting down, I realized that his head is way up here. I didn't really realize how big of a dog he was. And I'm so thankful that he never bit me, because it would have really been bad. But and I sat there and I talked to him. What else am I going to do? You know, I'm up there in the woods all by myself, and I'm always talking to my dogs anyway. So I'm telling him what a pretty dog he is and everything. And all of a sudden, the strangest thing happened. He reached over and gave me the biggest, sloppiest kiss. Oh, and it stunk too, oh boy. His breath was atrocious, and he'd been eating all this greasy food. But you know, and then he started leaning on me. Oh my goodness. So I had bonded with him, man, we were pals. So I put up with him for 2 weeks, every day, twice a day. I went up and let him out, and all I ever had to do was just be kind to him. And he was so responsive. Well, they came home, and I was thankful they were back, because it was a kind of a pain going up there and taking time to do this. I was wasting about an hour a day with him, I thought. And they called me up and they asked me, "What did you do to our dog?" And I go, "Well, what do you mean?" So, "Well, he doesn't act right anymore. He wants to be with us all the time. He follows us everywhere. And he won't eat the food that we normally feed him at all." And I guess my message is, it's always better to be kind and to try. Even with animals, with people, it always works better to just be kind. Thank you.